Yeah, let's kick it over to Elise and Bryce. Just to give you a little bit of background around them before I do, Elise is a BIM VDC manager from Broccolini Construction. She's been an OpenSpace power user for the past 3 years. From the very beginning of our time with Broccolini, we've had the pleasure of working with her. She's now managing a team of 5 and growing. We also have Bryce, a project coordinator from Broccolini. He has a master's in civil engineering and applied mechanics from McGill University. Both true innovators, and excited to have them at Waypoint today. Without further ado, Elise and Bryce, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Gabe. Thanks for welcoming us amongst you guys today. So thanks for the introduction. I'll just take a moment briefly to introduce ourselves and our organization. So not everybody knows us. So Broccolini, we are a team of, I don't know if you're seeing the slide or is it a delay? Let me just check real quick. Yes? Okay. So we'll continue like this then. All right. So introducing ourselves, we're an organization based out of Montreal. We have 3 offices. So Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto here in Canada. We're bringing 1.3 billion in revenue with only 500 or so employees. We have been with OpenSpace for quite some time. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out this presentation thing. I'm so sorry. There you go. All right. So we have built over 40 million square foot in building. We operate in different sectors. So we do residential, commercial, industrial, and all sorts of stuff. There you go. So you see here on the screen, I think there was a delay. My apologies. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We only operate in Canada. We are a builder, developer, and therefore also manage our buildings. So it brings us a different perspective and approach on how we use OpenSpace and those solutions. As Gabe mentioned, we have been using OpenSpace for quite some time. So just to give some sense on us in a bit numbers with OpenSpace. So we have had over 90 sites on OpenSpace with a little over 500 users. That means roughly 30,000 field notes, over 12,000 360 videos, and wow, 12 million 360 images. So just the numbers with the uses that we've been doing on our projects. So to continue, how do we get the most out of OpenSpace? So I'll hand over everything to Bryce, just making sure. I think there's a delay on the slide, but everything should follow shortly. So
yeah, so we should be on slide 75. I'm not sure if everyone can see it.
voilà.
So COVID-19 kind of changed the game on construction sites. We went from having a lot of site meetings, site coordination with professionals, with sub-trades, and then we all got locked down. In Quebec, we especially got hit hard with regulations, and the government, had regulations for our sites that made it very difficult to meet in person and speak with each other. So we started to use the power of OpenSpace to do a lot of these things. One of those included tenders. So whenever we're sending out a tender, now we often use OpenSpace to provide the OpenSpace link so that the people bidding on the project can actually go in 3D and have a look around the building, around the construction site before providing their bid. In some cases, we'll actually go on a Teams call with a trade, and we'll walk around in the open space in order to clarify their scope of work, just so they know exactly what they're pricing and if they have any questions. We also talk about access to the site, where they're storing materials, those kinds of things. Now, that saves time from actually going to the site with the bidder and walking around. This is particularly advantageous to us on smaller sites, because often bidders will come from areas that in a big city you could take 2 to 3 hours in traffic just to get across the city. So this is a way where we can get bidders from across the city bidding on smaller projects without having to waste their time. So it's a big time saver for them. We use it as well for records of the base building construction at the end of the base building before we do our tenant improvements. So it's a good record holder for us and for visibility to anyone on the project. Now at Broccolini, we have our other side of the building, which is Broccolini Real Estate. I work on the construction side. Now, Broccolini Real Estate is one of the biggest customers for Broccolini Construction. So in order to share the information, we often provide access to Broccolini Real Estate so they can go in and have a look at their construction site as it progresses on a weekly basis. It saves us from having to actually input cameras on the site if they wanted to see that regularly. I think we can go to the next.
Yeah, next slide. Thank you.
Yeah. Next thing I want to talk about is exterior of buildings. Often people use OpenSpace for the interior, but we also use it for the exterior. And we'll do that from the very beginning of the project all the way to the end. And then we can use the nice comparative tool to see the difference throughout construction from one point to the next. It's a very nice tool for us, especially when we're building brand new buildings that start in the field. We'll start all the way at the very beginning, walking through an empty field with our OpenSpace camera to the very end, like you see here, with a nice building and a parking lot. So it's a really nice way to see the progress of the project. Lastly, we have educational content at the tip of our fingers. So for a lot of our green employees, we use OpenSpace as the tool to show them what something looks like on site in 3D. You can do that with photographs, but it's a lot easier to actually walk around in OpenSpace and show inexperienced staff what they're looking at when they're looking at shop drawings or plans. I often get questions from the more junior staff saying, I don't know what a pile cap looks like. And so you can see on the screen, sorry, next slide. You can see on the next slide a pile cap here. And on the left, you can see the shop drawing. So this is a good tool for us to use to teach our younger, inexperienced staff in order to see what they're looking at and what to look out for on their projects. So we're able to reference back to previously done projects and use that as a tool for their knowledge. Pass it back to Elise.
Thanks very much. So we can go on the next slide with another application of how we use OpenSpace. As you see at the bottom of our slide, we kind of show the key features that we're using, but our objective is maybe more to kind of open your eyes to opportunities and ways of using those features. So on our sites, we're we have a very high bar for health and safety. I think it's very important for our workers, regardless of the type of schedule we have and whatnot, the safety of our people goes first. So we take that very seriously, and we have leveraged OpenSpace to actually generate more comprehensive more precise reports on things to actually adjust on site and communicate to our trades to make sure that our sites are safe and stay within our standards in the organization. So as you can see here, either we will walk with our 360 camera or not, depending on the availability or where we are in the day. Otherwise, the health and safety officer can also just simply pin independently the image to the plan. And we also use the tags on those field notes. So it allows us to actually filter after the conditions or different types of field notes. So in here, you'll have a specific set of priority. You'll have a tag identifying the discipline. So we regroup by discipline or by subtrade. So it's in French here, I think. So this is secret stuff for you guys. But if we go to the next slide, you'll see what we do. So essentially, we'll be walking the site, identifying items to pick up or clean up. And then at the end of the day or during the day, pull out a report, send that to our trades. And then we can actually go back and track, was that executed, was that done properly, and document it with also a tag. So we have the prior to cleanup, and then we have the after cleanup to actually document everything and make sure it was done. So that's a quick way for health and safety teams to actually generate reports with actual information that will help the trades to execute without having to write extensive emails. So we can go to the next slide. I think this is no surprise that OpenSpace is a great tool for quality control. So not only we can compare different dates and see what has been done or not done. Here on the GIF that we see here we are actually comparing to BIM models to actually ensure that the installation follows what we have planned and coordinated with our models. Should there be any deviations or things that don't follow what was planned, always happen, it always will, we actually elevate those field notes that we identify to RFIs or observation to kind of keep track and help with our visual. So regarding quality control, something that's truly important is to track what is in the slab, in the walls, and in the ceiling before we can no longer see it. So if we go to the next slide, we definitely do pre-concrete pour because once the concrete is there, yes, we can scan the slab and whatnot, but this is definitely an added value to do our quality check to make sure it also have reference in the future for how things were poured in the slab. There's items that are very precise, but other items in the slab that move a bit freely. So it's good to kind of keep track of where those things are. A good example of how we have used pre-pour follow-ups and for quality control would be if we go to the next slide. A little anecdote, we had a situation where we had MEP sleeves that were kind of given to us through an architectural drawing. And what happened is that the pour was the next morning and we got that directive the night before. So we had to act quickly before the pour because that slab was very special. It's a slab that actually had glycol, a lot of rebar. Essentially wasn't something that we could actually go back and pierce again. So we actually we uploaded the plan from the architect. So it's a bit different than typical plans you would see uploaded on OpenSpace. But by leveraging this, we could actually pin our field notes to it. And if we go to the next slide, essentially show the client and show the trade on site that we did our follow-up. We marked up where the new sleeves needed to be added and essentially proved to our client that we did our due diligence. We followed up and we kept track of that last minute requests pre-pour. So you see a bit on the image here, the glycols runs. Once that is poured over, you do not want to do piercings in your slab willy-nilly. That's not gonna be fun. Another application that is great with field notes, if we go on the next slide, a situation we had was to track the humidity level in our project. So we had a lot of wood accents or wood, architectural wood features, and essentially the sub-trade that was responsible for installing it asked us to maintain the humidity level to a certain level to be able to install and obviously not to have the wood crack or shrink due to humidity being too high or too low. So just by using the camera 360 with obviously the iPad and the equipment to track the humidity level, we just capture that field note at that location, added a tag, and we're quickly able to filter through and produce report per level to show that we actually did our check. And you have the date, the time, the location where that specific point or data was taken. So yes, we know about field notes and those features, but sometimes the application of those features is not always straightforward. And it was great because our teams on site were really quick on being creative, on finding the ways to make work more efficient for them with those tools. So I'll hand over to you, Bryce, for the next slide.
So on this next slide, you can see Elise caught a photo of me in a meeting using OpenSpace. Now that we're doing a lot more meetings through the computer, through Teams or Zoom or whatnot, I find that using OpenSpace in these meetings can be very effective, especially when we're dealing with a client that isn't necessarily near the project. So we have some projects where the client will be on the other side of the country, in the US, all over the place. So in order to provide a good visual for the client, especially when they're making decisions, it's nice to have the OpenSpace captures, and you can actually, guide your way through the building, through the construction site, so that they can see it live without having to transport them to the site and have that type of meeting. So really useful for that process, and also for clients to look at their existing building. We do a lot of expansion projects and or renovation projects. So sometimes they want to see, okay, what was in the original building? What are we putting in the new building? Do we want to upgrade? Do we want to leave it the same? So we can navigate through the existing building as well. So quite a useful tool when we're coordinating with the client and as well with any of the trades. Often when we're coordinating with the trades, we'll be using plans that we have, through our documentation as well as shop drawings. Just adding OpenSpace adds another dimension to make it, more clear for the group whenever looking at a specific problem or issue on the construction site. I'll pass it back to Elise on the next slide.
Thank you. So, yes, cost saving. I hope I got everybody's attention because I think that's what we're all chasing, right? Truthfully, cost saving is definitely a big added value. So you never know the data that you will need later on in your project, and it's not you don't have the time to look for it, or you don't want to spend so much time looking for it when you need to defend either claims or extras that are provided by the trade. So by doing those regular walks and by being consistent and capturing everything, not paying attention to, okay, I really need this, just by doing that regular activity, we're easily able to go back and compare dates. Okay, which trade was there, which trade was not there yet, who actually executed work at what time, and kind of spend less time looking for information for disputes. Often we had situations where we had to go back, we check, we pull out the information, we present back to the trade. Occasionally, essentially, they provided us with an extra, and they actually owed us money because they had less work to do. So you kind of settle to zero, and then you don't spend so much time looking for that information. You don't have all big disputes because you can't prove it. What's on the screen here, we're just doing a little, just showing that scaffolding was a complicated scaffolding in a round opening of an underground mall. So, fun stuff, cool to look at. By accident, actually billed us 2 extra months. The team on site, they kind of knew where they were when they got demobilized, but they were able to quickly just validate with OpenSpace, make sure, yes, it's true, at that date they were demobilized. We just got back to the company. They said, "Oops, my bad." But just that alone was actually 12K in cost that we saved just with that. And I could pull out more example of cost savings, but I think you guys get the grasp of it. It's very easy to go back, check, screenshot, or a little report, and just demonstrate the actual facts with minimal time added. And I believe the last item that we will show on the next page is regarding our other aspect of the business. So as not only a GC, but a owner of our buildings, we also use OpenSpace for property management. So essentially, before we have a tenant that comes in a space, we will go and capture the state of that space to, also for us and for the tenant, to actually capture the conditions of that space. Should there ever be damages or anything done to the space, depending on the contract or the agreement, well, when they leave, we can kind of compare the status of both, and manage it that way. A bit just like the bid that Bryce presented earlier, we can also use OpenSpace to showcase spaces without necessarily people going on site or moving, depending on where they're coming from, clients or people that would be potentially interested in the location. We can share walks in our shared folders, or even give them access for them to kind of walk through it as they please. And then should they want to have a real in-person visit before signing the lease, then they actually take the time to come on site and check it out. It's been proven very user-friendly. I think our clients, our trades, even within our organization, it's been very easy to navigate through it. And we don't have to do extensive training either, to allow people to walk. So in a nutshell, I hope that was insightful on little ideas on how to leverage all the different features from OpenSpace. And I'll pass it on to Power Design. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you so much, Elise and Bryce. We're so happy to have you here at Waypoint with us. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Power Design. We're going to have a little 60-second transition here, so don't go anywhere. Don't get out of your seats. We'll be talking to Power Design in a minute. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We're back with our friends Melvin and Dave's from Power Design. So they're going to be handling this next presentation here. Again, talking about their stories in deploying OpenSpace. Power Design has been with us from the very early days. I believe Dave's and Melvin were both customers from before I even started in 2019. So it's a pleasure and honor to have you with us today. Without further ado, I'll let Melvin and Dave's take it. And actually, again, I forgot to introduce you. Melvin is a director of field technology at Power Design. Combined more than 20 years, I think, of construction experience between Dave's and Melvin, and much more in IT. Made the transition to construction at a certain point. And Dave's similar story, right? You've been in construction, I believe, for 7 years now as a senior IT engineer for IT. Or yeah, there we go. Sorry, it's been a long day, everyone. But I'll, without further ado, I'm gonna let them take it away here.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you for the introduction, right? Just like you guys mentioned, my name is Melvin Gonzalez. Been with Power Design close to 8 years, almost 9, and it's been a very nice experience. Dave, you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, same here. I've been with Power Design for over 6 years now. Such a great experience. Um, some challenges, especially with technology on the field. Open space is one of them for sure. And we're here today to share with all of you the experiences that we had in the field and how we actually improve every day on trying new things, new features, and how we train our teams in the field and how we make sure that we all are on the same page and standardize all the processes and the captures as well.
Before we jump into like our decks, I'd like to give you a quick overview of who Power Design is. We're a national design build multi-trade contractor specializing in electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and system technologies. And we have 2,500 employees. We have completed 1,700 projects. We operate in 23 different states. We have 240 employees in our engineering division, and our EMR is at 0.65. And obviously today we got good news that it dropped to 0.56, and everybody knows in the construction industry, while the lower the number is better overall. And we have for 2021 875 million in revenue. So, like we just mentioned, implementing OpenSpace, right? Give you a back history of how we got there. In 2018, we began this journey to find a better solution to document our captures that we're doing across our job sites. And we saw the solution of OpenSpace, and it was a good fit for us. So we haven't thought twice of it. We started with the pilot project with just 3 projects that we wanted to test it, see how it went. But we can't lie here. It was a bit of a struggle at the first. Like everything, things take time to adapt. New technology, since it's new, there's a little bit pushback from a couple employees. And Dave's was the one that was piloting these 3 projects at the beginning. Dave, do you have any context there of what you went through?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned it, especially the struggle, because it was very challenging, especially because it was new technology, not only for the company, but for us as an IT department. We didn't have the experience or the expertise using the open space that we have nowadays. So it was a pretty much learning curve on those 3 projects for all of us. Actually, every time that you try to implement something new in a project, and you guys might understand what I'm saying, you always receive somehow and some kind of a little pushback, right? They really don't want to have more things to do or more tasks on their shoulders. until you really show them that this is a great tool or that this is going to make their life easier. And back in those years, 5 years ago, wow, it wasn't that easy to actually show that to them because we didn't know. We didn't know until like we make sure that we can prove value on open space. Good thing is that we always had open space on our site. They always open and willing to help us on anything that we need to actually ask or anything that had to be improved. They always there. So obviously that was the companionship that we needed back in those days, and that is being getting better and stronger within the years until today.
And having buy-in from the executive team is crucial, right? It has to come from top to bottom that this new technology is being deployed to use it, and it's been a big help. Once the value was proven, right? That was quick. Out of those 3 projects that we rolled it out to initially, everybody saw the value, so we implemented across our entire footprint. And it's now one of 3 things that are mandatory in every job site. It's so crucial for us to have it. That's one of the 3 mandatory things that we do across our sites. And
Yeah.
obviously, what was that?
No, yeah, thank you, Melvin, because it wasn't not only how important it is for us, it is the value and the benefits that everybody see on open space. Today, if you actually ask any of the superintendents that we have on every single project, they all love open space because they see how good it is for them, and now they see value. So obviously it's a lot easier or make our job easier as well, because every time that we need to train somebody on open space, they're always open to get the training and add the technology to their projects.
And obviously, our team is passionate about open space because they see the value from it. And like I always mention, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And sometimes I like to reference open space to Google Street View, right? Before I go anywhere, I like to go into Google Street, see the the surrounding areas where I'm going to go visit. So it's the same thing like in construction. You have that 360 capture view of your entire footprint of the job site. So it's a lot easier for everybody to understand where we stand, where we are within our job sites. And obviously, we implement an intensive training plan, which includes field boot camps, which we bring our field employees to corporate uh, once a month or every month. We are very highly engaged with training and development here in corporate, and we have regional meetings that we go out to our different regions that we have once a year. So, a company our size, how can we attain captures, contain consistent captures, right? We have projects from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast that everybody might think that they're doing their a certain capture that's important for them. So we had to establish the following, right? SOP, which stands for Standard Operation Procedure, that has strict guidelines on what needs to be captured. Capture schedules that we have the operation team, which is our PM team, look at the captures once a week to see if there's any problems at a job site. And our executive PX team, they review the captures once a month.
Yeah,
And one
and
of our core values here is accountability. So we established a system that if within 14 days there's no captures, our system auto generates a red milestone to make sure that there's no issues at the job site with the technology or our systems, or if they need a refresher or we need to go out there and retrain them. And obviously we establish weekly walks, but most of our sites already do the captures weekly. Even some do them several times a week, right? The more the data you have, the better information you have to use in case you need to sustain any type of claims or problems. And on the screen on the screen on your right hand side, there's a poster that we deploy to our job sites that summarizes our SOP. That if any case they need a refresher or need to see what needs to be walked, is right there in the center of when and what to walk. So it's just an easier way for everybody to be on the same page and to understand what needs to happen in case they need a refresher.
Yeah, no, that is correct. Actually, because we all know and we also agree on how easy it is using OpenSpace from point A to Z. You know, from taking the captures all the way to uploading them to the system is super easy. Now, the part that we actually got together and put together, I will say, it is having a SOP created so we can all be on the same page. I mean, you can put the camera on and just walk, but are you capturing what you really need to capture? Are you capturing what you consider most important for your project or for your company? That's a good question, right? Because basically, when you sit down with the executive and people that are more involved into the projects, even the superintendents in our cases, and you talk to them about what you need to see, what you want to see, what do you consider important, you can actually put a plan together and have it on the table. So everybody will be on the same page, everybody will be synchronized. The captures are going to be more standardized. And at the end of the day, you will have a more consistent captures, more consistent walks, and everybody is going to see exactly the same on every single project. So that's and when we had the COVID-19, um, basically here is where all the effort paid off. Um, 5 years ago, when we started to deploy OpenSpace to every single project, and we create the SOP to standardize the process, is where we actually made our job easier. So when we had the COVID-19 and we have all the limitation about traveling and getting in touch with people, basically we already had um, the OpenSpace up and running on every single project for our company. So basically, that make it a lot easier for all of us to virtually have an eye on the project, make sure all the job was done correctly, and see how everything was advancing, even without us to having to be in the project. The 360 images, as maybe we were mentioning before, uh, having the 360 degree, you can definitely have a better perspective of what you're seeing. So sometimes in our case, if you send a picture of a wall and what you have is an outlet, I mean that's just an outlet, right? But what sometimes the other person on the other side, they don't really understand what you're trying to say, or they don't see the entire picture, or they just don't get it. They don't know where you are, and this is what actually make it easier with OpenSpace, because every time that we send those pictures, we every time that we share those captures, they will be able to actually go through um, the whole capture and see everything they need to see, and sometimes they actually catch things that we don't know. So actually, right now, everybody on the field actually rely on OpenSpace because they use it as a I would say a backup. You know, they save their backs big time, and especially on everything that had to do with chargebacks, they actually can avoid those a lot with showing that the job was done and it was done correctly. So somehow you can definitely have that as a proof, and you can always go to OpenSpace and get those captures back. And we consider like a time machine, where you can go back to the past and you can get that information that you need and that you consider super important, because you never know what happened or when, but you have everything already captured in there and you can just go back and get it.
Yeah, like Dave just mentioned, right? When COVID-19 did kick in and they started locking down travel, construction was considered essential, right? So construction kept on working. So having open space, it was easier for the corporate or the office and the field to be able to continue to operate, right? Because before it was more going out to visit job sites physically and having it deployed and using it, it was able to breach that gap of not visiting job sites because we had all the walks and captures within the platform to be able to have meetings, talk about issues that were happening at a job site, and make the life easier for the entire our user base.
Yeah, open space help a lot. Even the communication between the field team and the people in the office, because you get more transparency on what you have, what's going on the project. Um, you know, the job of the field team is to actually work on the field, and by doing the walks, you can show that you are doing your job and that you are doing it in the best way possible. So they always happy to see what they're doing, and since the SOP actually have the PMs, the project managers, and the project executive to actually look at the captures, it's even better because the transparency and the communication has improved a lot.
Sorry, I got problems with my mouse. Not using my mouse. There.
All right. So the benefits of consistent captures, um, we always try to do the best or make the life easier for our field teams, and that's what we are working on right now. Basically, every time that we have a new feature on open space, or even with the open space itself as a technology, we create like several tutorial videos and we show them to them. We actually put it as a mandatory for all the field people or anybody that was involved with the open space, directly or indirectly. So that way we can explain them how to use open space, how to make uh, most or captures more effective for all of us, and how to get the captures uploaded and how to walk the site. A lot of things that we were having problems with at the very beginning, we try to capture all that information, put it together, make tutorials, make life easier for everybody, and make sure that everybody were on the same page by having a better captures and having a better images. So we were working with the marketing team, the video and photography, and the communications team, and the company, just to get those videos done and make sure that the quality that they were seeing was the best.
And obviously we established too the pathways of walking the sites, right? Because you have those consistent captures within the same path that you have walked weekly. You have that timestamp that you go back to them and see, okay, this is where we were last week, this is where we are this week, and be able to push production and see if things are complete by project milestones. So, like they just mentioned, right? It's been a little bit of work in our end and the PMs, and the image helps everyone communicate a lot faster and easier, right? Because one thing is to call over the phone and say this wasn't done or that wasn't done, or say take a picture on your iPhone and send it on a text message. You don't really know what that's referring to. So having those captures consistently and walking the same path week over week, there is better documentation to be able to bring things up and communicate across different teams.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta hold hand with the people in the field, and you gotta walk them through the technology. But you just do that on the very beginning, probably just to make sure everybody is um, feeling more comfortable with using the technology. And by putting that effort at the very beginning and working together with them will make it a lot easier at the end. So after they do that the very first couple of times, they will be good to go, and then they go from project to project, like getting already a habit of doing captures and putting the SOP in practice, and it will get to a point that all you need to do is pretty much do a refresh for every new feature that OpenSpace have, or every need that you have. That sometimes the field people will actually approach to you, and they will talk to you about how you can improve OpenSpace, or how we can better use OpenSpace, and we can talk to OpenSpace and see if we can have that added to our projects. So communication, communication is pretty much everything on any job, any company. And in this case, field notes is one of the features that OpenSpace have that we love, honestly, because um, every time that we use field notes on certain things that we need more detail of having a picture for, we can definitely use that as an option. So uh, we can, every time that we take a field note, sometimes as mentioned, as Melvin was mentioning before, sometimes people ask for a picture to be able to see something. You can take a field note, send it via email, and you are sharing the whole capture pretty much. So they can actually see the picture, and if they have any doubts or they want to see more, they can just click on the link and go to the capture and see everything else. So uh, basically, we have something that we call clear the path, which is like every time that we are being held back because something else is not being done, and is not letting us complete the job, we take pictures on OpenSpace, and we can actually share that on FieldWire and use it as a proof. So basically, on this case, we were able to prove, and this is a verified work completed, and this is what we were talking about before. It's like OpenSpace can definitely save your back, right? You can use OpenSpace to prove that your job has been done, that it was actually completed, and this is a real case. We were able actually to prove the GC that roughing exists after it has been drywall. Sometimes they gotta pretty much take everything off, and in order for them to actually make sure it was done. So by having those pictures, you can definitely add a lot of value to it, and it will save you big time the money that you might lose by ripping it all off and having to build it again.
Now, there was an example that one of our PM team sent us that the GC was using HP 360 photos, and obviously they do their walks also, but we do our walks, and it looks like their system didn't capture what was showing there, and we were able to prove that our boxes were in the drywall, so there wasn't any needs to cut the drywall to see if they were there or not. So those are good examples of when you do your walks consistently, you have data to back up in case there's any concerns that are brought up. We have production meetings monthly, right? So we use OpenSpace in production meetings to improve decision making and accountability, right? The data's there. It's easy to go through it. Like it allows us to keep track of production and catch critical items on time. There's no need to wait to go visit a job site if all the captures are doing like this should be weekly. This has a huge positive impact on pushing production for all involved, right? Because if we're pushing, we always try to push production, and we document it with our captures that we do weekly. And we also use it to go back to previous months and see the progress during those meetings, right? If we mentioned that last week we're going to do X, and the following month we have a production meeting, X wasn't completed, that means there's an issue at the job site. And we also go over milestones to review where we stand, and we can use OpenSpace captures to make them more impactful.
So it's definitely gonna make the site visit more effective, because instead of going to the project and see what's going on, you can actually review the capture before of the visit, and you can see exactly where you're gonna go and where are you pointing at. So you can, every time that the project management, they go to the projects, they go and they talk to the supers or the field teams specifically on stuff that they need to either fix or change, or things that they have noticed on the captures, that they can go more straight to the point, and that basically make the visits more valuable and more productive.
Yeah, the quick to chime in there, now they go with agenda, right? Before they used to go to a job site, visit without an agenda. Now you go to sites with an agenda because you have seen if there's any issues at a job site, you just go there, pinpoint, this is the problem we're having, and it's a lot easier, better communication. ROI of open space, like just Elise mentioned over there, saving money is an agenda to everybody. So this is an example of a PM from the West Coast that they were able to reduce their travel by 50%, going from monthly site visits to bi-monthly site visits. And in those particular cases, they have been able to save approximately 15 grand on some projects. So you can do the math right there. Our goal is to try to see if we could get this kind of savings across more sites. And just we put a number there. In that region, there's like 28 projects. So if we could get an average saving of 15K in one project, having like 28 projects, it equates to like 400K in savings, right? So there's a huge benefit of using OpenSpace and doing the consistent captures and making sure the captures are being done, because it reduces a lot of problems and concerns across the board, across every team, because you could go in there and visually see the job site, see what's going on, and there's not that waste of time going and visiting job sites.
So we really appreciate, and this is to pretty much end our presentation, but we really appreciate how OpenSpace has been working with us as a partner. Every time that we need new improvements, uh, they are always there on our site, and they basically help us to not only make our job easier, but also to identify new things that we can improve. So by working with them, it's a win-win situation, pretty much, where we can actually talk to them about any issues. They can improve their technology. We can actually make it better, or actually look better on our end. And they, as I mentioned at the very beginning, they're always there. Every time that we need any assistance, every time that we have problems with any captures, every time that we need to retrieve any information, they're always there. So it's a really relationship that we have between Power Design and OpenSpace.
Just wrap it up. Like Gabe mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're one of the first customers to get on the bandwagon of OpenSpace, and ever since then, it's been like awesome, right? Between them communicating to us communicating to them, asking for certain aspects of, uh, let's say, fine tuning or some things we would like to see. They're always willing to help, always willing to listen, and it's been awesome. It's been an awesome uh, time with them, dealing with open space and trying to improve both aspects, right? Us and their platform.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, OpenSpace.
Yeah, thank you so much to all of our panelists. And to kind of echo what you were saying, James and Melvin, I think the partnership side is so important. I think Broccolini, Elise, and Bryce, you've experienced that as well, with continuing to kind of inform our product roadmap, us kind of sharing things with you of what we're thinking and getting that feedback. And I think I could really speak for OpenSpace in saying that we tremendously value that as well, right? It's just as important to us to be hearing that feedback, helping where we can and really understanding what you do better, right? But thank you so much for spending the time with us today. We do need to get rolling, I think, to the next break because we have another panel coming in a little bit. And I'm going to pass it off to Michael to kind of wrap things up and introduce the next panel.